Living Indubiously.
It is your call. It is your game. It is your creation.
Oh my god, they're so indubious!
All right, we're doing the
Glad to have an
sprockets.
optimal theory for playing the game.
Whatever
That's all I
you
got.
focus upon becomes your truth.
What's up, everybody? This is Evton B here, and this is the Living Indubiously podcast. Today, we got this guy.
Hi.
This is timcash.
Hi, everyone.
Timcash is a close personal friend of mine. He's you become kind of like a family. You become like a homie, like a family friend. My brother lives with you now.
That's pretty wild.
That's a little weird.
I mean, he's got
is that
his
too
own-
much information?
He's got his own place. No, not at all.
Or can people know that?
He's got his own house. It's on our property. But
He lives in your backyard, basically. My brother lives in a shack in Tim's backyard.
The old shed.
And Tim is also a gifted videographer. Is that the proper title? Videographer?
Gifted. I like that.
You like that. You like my addition.
I love it when you say nice things.
Videographer.
Filmmaker. I like filmmaker.
Okay.
Videographer, I feel like I should be shooting weddings or something.
Word.
Yeah.
Respect. Don't be afraid
Nothing
to show
wrong
your pretty
with-
face at the camera.
Nothing
here,
wrong
too.
with shooting weddings at all.
Yeah, and then make sure when you're talking, you see your little guy going,
Oh,
okay?
there's so much to think about.
No, it's okay. Just do all the things right and you'll be fine.
Okay.
And so Tim has made a bunch of music videos for us now. 3?
4.
C sharp. Ease and flow.
Yes.
Never bow.
Yep.
And what's number 4? Oh yeah, Fabric of Creation.
Yes.
I always forget about that one. It's kind of like the sleeper hit out of all our video. It doesn't get a lot of play. I don't know why.
I like Sleeper Hit. better than Sleeper.
Well, I mean, it's just my point is it's just kind of a sleeper. But
It's a great song.
no, I thought the video was tight too. It's got like the whole like kind of psychedelic kaleidoscope thing going on.
I really like your part where it's like there's big U and little U. You know, you're like little U's
Totally.
in the beginning, but or
Yeah.
in the middle, but it's like
Yeah.
it's like one of those movies where the robot, you're like the little guy's inside the robot,
Yeah.
but he's controlling.
Exactly. Totally. So we're cluing you into our day here. So Tim picked me up from the mechanic. Pretty solid bro move right off the bat. Strong start to the day.
It wasn't even in Bend; it was in Redmond.
It was in Redmond. And then we did my first time watching the first take of the Indubious documentary.
Yes, which I've been working on for the last couple months, and I finally let it out. Evan could see it. So
Yeah.
this morning I woke up and I was really nervous. I got up like 3 hours before I normally
Really?
do on like a normal, yeah. But I was
That's
trying to
funny.
figure out if I was nervous about the podcast or if I was nervous about showing you the movie. And now that we've watched the movie and he loves it, now I feel like definitely like this. I'm like,
It's a weight off for sure.
it's a weight off. And you know how it is with, well, maybe you don't, but sharing art and, you know,
Yeah, it's tough, man.
putting it out there. It's
So we're doing a documentary called Mystic Vibrosis. I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard about it. You guys have all kind of been, all of you people out there that are really into the podcast, you know about our documentary. Here, let me fix my, first off, I need to turn this monitor off. This is the fun stuff people get to listen to. Now I'm going to turn my input up a little bit. Well, not that much. Now it's peaking. We don't want that red light. So we're doing this documentary called Mystic Vibrosis, and so tell them a little bit about what the documentary. Give me the Cliff Notes elevator pitch of what this documentary is all about.
well, I mean, it's the Indubious story, or the guide to living indubiously. Kind of what I've been calling it, the Mystic Vibrosis and the guide to living indubiously.
It's tight.
And yeah, you know, when I started, I think we planned on it being smaller. We planned on it being more simple, maybe, or
Yeah, I
more
think we
like a
said
mini.
8 minutes.
I think we even called it a mini doc.
We said 8 minutes.
8 minutes.
That was my
Okay.
8-minute. I don't know where that came from.
Times 6. We're at 48 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think it needed that much time to tell the story completely. And honestly, for me, it's been this like truly cathartic experience where I've just had I've had some releases during the making of it. I mean, obviously most of you probably know a lot about these guys and their story, and I've been kind of like living inside their story for the last couple months and putting together interviews from family members and them fans, attending a few shows, and really trying to figure out the best way to tell your story.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was fixing my hair.
All good.
I'm just kidding.
So what did you?
Well, I just kind of wanted to set the stage for what's going on here, so people know, you know.
But I was going to ask, what was your impression? I mean, you just watched
and
it.
so that's why I was kind of setting the stage so I can get my impression, because
Okay.
without the stage set, the impression, you know, doesn't have the impact.
Right.
But you know, Tim's been calling me a bunch and saying, dude, like, I've just been crying for like a week, man. This documentary is so good. So I was either kind of starting to think that maybe Tim just cries really easily or the documentary is really good. And honestly, dude, I was literally crying within the first 30 seconds, was it?
It hits you pretty fast.
I don't know what it was, man, but
How did it feel for you watching it out? I mean, you lived this story, but then
Yeah.
seeing yourself, how does that feel?
well, like I told you when it finished, it's interesting because I live this, it's my life, but it's almost like you don't experience your life at once. You experience it through all the different phases, and in those phases, you're very much kind of inundated with the phase of like, oh, this is happening, there's drama in it. And then there's pockets of realizations and kind of like clear spots of like, oh, that was great, and I'm through it. But those are kind of few and far in between, let's be honest. Like, it's mostly like work, you know, is what it feels like. But getting to see it in that presentation, man, just blew my heart open, because I feel like this is, I don't know, I feel like my life is all, I've always known this, I've always felt this, but I feel it even more, and like have this visual evidence now that everything in my life was for a reason. You know, I know, I mean, we all know that, and it's an easy thing to say. It's like a kind of a Hallmark postcard meme.
Right.
Everything happens for a reason. But I don't know. And also it's like, me and Skip have been, whoa, that was crazy, bro. I just had a crazy thing happen right now. I looked at the time and it said 1 hour, 11 minutes and 11 seconds up there. It was 1111. That was one extra one that I ever seen. So that was a dope synchronicity.
Yeah, I usually get to 11:11.
Woo! That was crazy. Shit, what was I saying?
You were talking about seeing it for the first time, and well, I was asking about. I mean, when you saw it, were you able to separate yourself from it and watch it from an outside perspective, or were you just like really just? I mean, what goes through your head when you're watching your? I've never watched myself like that before, so I can't.
Oh, this is what I was going to say. Thank you. You got me there. Is that I was glad. This is kind of answering your question, also kind of not, but we'll get there. I was very, very great. I'm grateful for you, bro.
I'm grateful for you too.
Super fucking talented, and not just talented, but kind and easy to work with, and there's no ego in the way. So you, that's the magic recipe. So having you step into this project, it wouldn't have happened, because Skip and I have been talking about wanting to do something like this for years, but it's weird to make a documentary on yourself, and because there has to be a story to be told, and no one wants. I mean, there's definitely people out there that want to, but no one wants like to be the guy that's like, "Hey, everyone, look what I made. It's a piece of art about how cool I am." Everyone's like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting," you know. And I don't know if that's just my ego. Like maybe I perceive myself as a humble person and want to maintain that, or if I feel like, you know, maybe I'm going to come off like an arrogant ass by having a story about myself, but having your filter, your perspective, like you're telling a story through it. And honestly, it still makes me a little bit uncomfortable, the fact that it's painting. It's not even painting. I think it's real. I think it's real what's coming through. But I mean, in any document, you could take one documentary and you can have two people edit it, and make someone a villain or a hero.
Exactly, with the same footage.
The same exact footage. And we see this all the time now. They do those funny things where they remake movie trailers and make them into horror movies or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. But yeah, man, it was just pretty mind-blowing.
So good for you to step away from it and let someone else take it on rather than, because if you had been a part of it, that would have been weird.
100% necessary. I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Right.
Like just the simple fact that there's people interviewed in there about what Indubious means to them. That'd be very weird doing it from
what do I mean to you? Right.
From my perspective. All right, fan, tell me about how awesome I am. You know, like right there, it kind of skews their perspective too, because then they're going to want to, you know.
Which was really powerful for me was learning how important you guys are to all these other people, and really just getting to meet your fans, and it makes me a bigger fan and makes me like love what's behind the music even more.
Since you're turned at me, I'm going to turn it. You just lean into this thing. I like it.
Okay, cool. So it's okay that we're not.
I think it's fine. This makes it better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're starting a new thing here.
First time.
But yeah, it was like this has been an incredible experience in my life. I mean, I've been a filmmaker for almost 20 years, and you always want to tell a story that moves people. Or that's been my dream, and you don't always get that opportunity depending on the project, right? It always depends on the project, but this is one of those projects where even my wife was like, "This is a story you have to tell. This is a powerful story. This is going to change people's lives," and like it's been giving my life meaning because I get to be a part of the Indubious experience and like spread this positivity that you guys are spreading through film, which is my medium.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I mean, it's such a mutually beneficial experience. I mean, you're expressing gratitude for working on it. I'm super grateful that you worked on it, you know. It's not like we had a bunch of money to pay you for it. This is kind of like a passion thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm excited. So you want to release it at film festivals?
So I do have a distributor that's distributed my other films. The one stipulation is that it has to go to one film festival. I don't know why that is. I think they're somehow connected with film festivals.
Do you want to show it at film festival? Do you think that's a cool outlet for this particular style of something? Or do you think that's going to pale in comparison to the kind of...
I think it's a good starting point. Like I think maybe, and I'd have to look right now, you know, you guys have a lot of roots in Southern Oregon. The Ashland Film Festival is a big one. And I think right around now is probably when people are submitting their work, because I think it's in January. But that would be a good one where if it got in, you know, we could all get up on stage. And
there's the Bend Film Festival. That just happened. Like 2 days ago.
2 days ago, yeah. And I was just there, actually. We had a film, a documentary called Tai Chi Spirit that was about our Wushu Tai Chi teacher and his students and going to China. So I got to go to China to film that one. And that was a really fun, interesting one. And honestly, it was philosophically similar in a lot of ways, surprisingly. Yeah. Just outlooks on life. I got to interview a lot of these old Kung Fu masters in China. They were speaking in Mandarin, so I didn't know what they were saying until 3 months later when I got everything transcribed. And then it was these like deep, philosophical, poetic answers that I just was like, whoa, this is incredible stuff. Some of the stuff they said is similar to what some of the stuff you guys said in your interviews. So I found it like really, you know, also powerful.
Truth is truth.
It's true.
Throughout the world.
And it's interesting
with the language.
It's interesting because the meaning of life, like I always ask this question in documentaries, I'm like, what's the meaning of life? Because you just never know what people are going to answer. And it's cheesiest question, right? It's like, what is the meaning of life? But everybody has a different meaning.
Yeah.
And just hearing people's, because there's no wrong answer really. But I always just found him so interesting, and it usually opens the door for them to tell a story that always, you know, gravitating and ends up making for good subject.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of life?
Ooh, I knew you were going to say that. To grow.
Yeah.
Well, I just heard Skip was talking about his Inaboga situation where the guy was like, ask that tree over there what the meaning of life is. And he just like instantly answered, to grow.
Wow.
That seems really simple and amazing and everything. I think one of the things is that you do all the things you want to do in life so that when the end comes, you don't feel like you have to like, you don't have an easier time going rather than wanting to like go back and relive your life or fix the things that and so if you do everything you can do to make this life as prosperous as possible, then you don't have that regret in the end.
Prosperous, not just financially, but
not financially
in
at all.
every form of abundance.
Exactly. And I think just happiness, really. Prosperity and happiness is probably the main thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably a common thing that people feel is of like having regrets about their life or feeling like there's things that they didn't do that they wanted to do or wanting to go back and do it again and heal relationships. And I can't really imagine feeling that way do you feel that way about your life?
Not at all.
Everything hard to get there for me.
Yeah, and even, part of the documentary, the Indubious documentary, is just that how the hard things are what shape us and make us who we are and teach us lessons.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it also is just learning who you are and growing as a person.
Yeah.
And just walking as lightly on the planet as possible. I think that's like a big one for me is not taking more than I give. I think that's a huge one.
I mean, that seems evident in your personality. You're very much you have a level of kindness that is uncommon. I wonder if that gets you into trouble sometimes.
It does all the time.
It does.
Yeah. I often extend myself further than I feel comfortable. And in the beginning, I'm stoked on it. But if I open the door for people to like, oh, it's that easy for him to do that. Why not just ask for a little bit more and ask for a little more? And then I'm a Scorpio, so like I can like let stuff build up.
Right. I know the Scorpio vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're not really into communicating deep feelings so readily. Is that what you say? Is that what you would say? Or is that a perversion of the idea?
I think I hold on to some things sometimes and maybe feel like people are trying to get the best of me. And that's something I constantly have to work on. And my wife, Yuvia, unfortunately, she's the one that when I do have to vent, she's the one, it's her ears that end up having to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that I can go out and be who I am.
She seems like she's probably really good at that, which is why you guys get along so good.
Well, she's an incredible communicator and she's taught me to be a better communicator.
Yeah.
I'm still got a long way to go to be at her level because there's no hiding you. She's not one of those people where you would have to ask like, are you okay? Is there something wrong?
Yeah.
Because she will tell you.
Yeah.
Like the second there's something wrong.
Totally.
So in our relationship, I think that we've like pushed past things that most people have to deal with as like a commonality. We push through that super fast. We have our little blowouts, we get over it and we move on and we are better for it.
So you have a beautiful family, man. So in your opinion, purpose of life is to grow. And so I believe that we end up attracting to us whatever the theme. I mean, first off, I agree with you. I think that that's the point. The point is that we're here to grow and expand because it's fun and we want to grow. There's, we are essentially all little shards of God that come out and through this amnesic experience get to kind of go and play the video game again. Because you don't want to start at the end of the video game. You want to start at the beginning of the video game. You don't have the super lightsaber sword. You don't have the magic shield. You're not a level 12 paladin with psychic powers or whatever. So you build it because it's fun. It's the gathering, it's the adventure. And then, so I feel that like we all kind of have our individual themes too. And for me, my theme has been health and music and now things like podcast and spirituality and teaching. And so for you, it seems to have been, I want to say videography again, but what was the term you preferred to use? Filmmaking. Thank you. I got it now. So in what way do you feel filmmaking has brought you through, what have you learned? I guess is the simple question.
About my life or about life?
About
through
yourself,
filmmaking?
About life.
So much. But I also want to say that filmmaking is not totally who I am. Like as far as, you're
a musician too.
I try to be, but definitely that's something that does not come as easy as filmmaking.
Yeah.
I've always had a knack for finding emotion in film and like feeling the chills, like when I'm editing, like that's when I know I'm onto something. And
I can tell that that's what you're good at.
And so sometimes I have to, like, if it's not working, like if I got the wrong song in there or the wrong clips together, I got to go out and like move some rocks around. And just a little bit about like my daily life. I wake up early, I drink some coffee. I usually go take a guitar lesson on YouTube or something, or like this week I've been learning reggae bass. So I was just like, I want to learn how to play reggae bass, so I'll try and learn something. I mean, I've got so many interests. I've been learning how to build buildings, like on my property. And so
I've seen.
And so that really gives me meaning right now.
Yeah.
And really I feel like micro goals are like something that also help me make it through day-to-day life, which is like,
you've talked about this before. I'm curious about it.
Yes.
Micro goals.
So basically I'll take it from the stance of a beginner filmmaker who sets out to make a feature film.
Yeah.
They have no experience and they go out, they try to make a feature film. And I know because I did this when I was 19 years old.
Very literal
I had
story.
a VHS, camera. And I realized that I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
And I like sank into a hole afterwards. I was like, and I find that this happens so much where people just like reach for the stars right away.
Yeah.
And they immediately get turned off by the whole experience because they realize that maybe they're not good at something and they're like, oh, that's not it. So I'm going to do something else. But I find, for instance, in the documentary, when you look at it from far away and you're just beginning, you're like, how am I ever going to make this 50-minute piece come together? But if you just start with one segment at a time, just make that segment your goal and accomplish that, and then make the next segment your goal. Eventually, you will just have a film that's all put together.
Yeah.
So in a daily life, I like these little micro tasks where it feels like every day I accomplish something, because I feel like if I'm not accomplishing things, that's when I can feel down on myself or feel insecure or maybe get a little bit depressed. So I know that about myself. So I try to like make my day full of accomplishments, even if it's the most simplest task, which is shoveling a bunch of rocks into a wheelbarrow, pushing them up a hill and dumping them into a spot. That's, sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have the same tendency. I'm a workaholic. I should probably stop saying that because what you say creates more of it. right. But I'm a kind of a recovered workaholic. I'm definitely far better than I used to. And so my thing now is like, if I wake up and if I just do like 2 hours of concerted work of handling my stuff, that's usually all it really takes for me to not only like do the bare minimum, but do a little extra too on it, unless there's like a looming project or I'm in the middle of doing something extreme or I'm like on tour or whatever. Obviously there's a bunch of stuff that has to get done.
Right.
But, something that has been helpful to me is this type of train of thought of asking yourself the question, if I accomplished absolutely nothing today, would I still be worthy of love? Would I still love myself? Am I still a worthy being? If I accomplished nothing this month, if I accomplished nothing in my life, would I still be worthy of love? And we know the answer is yes, you're still worthy. And so it begs the question of why do I feel like I need to do something every day in order to feel okay about myself? And I think it's definitely, there's different kind of archetypes of people of how we, what kind of trauma we had when we were young and how we choose to overcome that, right? There's people that withdraw. There's people that try to do extra shit, be hyper productive. There's people that become angry and mean and try to belittle others to make themselves feel larger. And I think we probably have that same archetype in the sense that we self-value ourselves based on what we're producing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
So it's definitely one of the best dysfunctions to have. It's socially super acceptable, right? I mean, because it's like, it's heralded as the American dream of the hard worker. This guy didn't sleep at all last night. Yay. Good for you. You're killing yourself. Good job, sir. You're the best.
I guess for me, it's like, if I was sitting on the couch watching TV all day, I would feel like that wasn't the best use of my,
of course,
experience as a human. But that's what I feel like on the days where I wake up and I'm not I don't feel like I can accomplish anything, you know? I give myself that where it's like, oh, today's maybe just not the day that you're going to get.
Yeah. And not like saying that you're going to go and like be a couch potato and eat crappy food and watch TV. But what if instead of being, you know, having, needing to have productivity every day, what if part of productivity was experiencing joy and doing self-care?
Right.
And so for me, my day, I've come up with a new definition of productive day. If I have the best day of my life, obviously it's productive. Did I create anything? Did I, you know, pay any bills? Did I make any money? Maybe not at all, but I had the best day of my life.
Yeah. And
Hella productive. I mean, as far as self-care goes, that's like, you know, giving yourself permission to do that. And so this has been a big, I like the way this kind of conversation is flowing. It's probably super tangential for people listening, but I'm having fun at least. So,
me too.
it's this
Tangential.
tangential. I think it's a word, tangential.
Sure.
Tangenty. This has become a huge part of my like spiritual ethos of giving myself permission to just merely be in the flow. And sometimes being in the flow is doing incredible, amazing, productive work. But sometimes it's not. And when you resist, I still have the days where it's like, I feel like doing nothing, yet I'm fighting against it. I have constant anxiety in my head that's saying, you have to do something to be productive. You have to go, you're not doing anything to be productive. What are you doing, you piece of crap? You know what I mean? It's this constant kind of low level looming anxiety in the back of my head. And I'm fighting it and going against the flow of not wanting to do anything and like forcing myself to do stuff and maybe not even doing very good at doing it. But getting to a point where I've like just become comfortable, giving myself permission to flow exactly where I'm going to flow, man, it's nice. And tying this all into one big, you know, present with the cherry on top, the documentary, man. I should watch that once a day because that really gives me a perspective. It's like that gave me a perspective of if I do nothing else for the rest of my life has already been fucking amazing. You know,
Definitely it is.
I'm super grateful.
It's again, like you said, I just was there watching the pieces come together. The film was already made.
Uh-huh.
And as far as like I guess I have some different, like when it comes to getting stuff done or being, like moving rocks for me, I guess is like a meditative thing because I don't feel like it takes any brain power. And I feel like maybe I'm not really accomplishing anything, but I'm giving my brain a rest.
Are you moving the rocks to a place they need to be?
Sometimes they get moved back and forth. I mean, like I've literally moved rocks up the hill, down the hill. I mean, I'm constantly landscaping, trying to figure out where these rocks should go. And it's, like I said, it's like sort of just a mindless meditative task.
Wow.
And it's not always rocks, you know. It's
and it could be like shoveling firewood or shoveling dirt.
Yeah, and so we chop our own firewood, and I do find that incredibly meditative.
I think there's definite therapeutic value for physical. Well, first off, it's exercise, and it releases endorphins. It's super good for our body, and then it's easy to turn your mind off. I think it's akin to meditation.
Right. And speaking of the fire thing, before I have the coffee, especially this time of year, it's going outside, chopping, kindling, getting a fire going. But there's something really meditative about a fire. We call it hippie television because you can just sit there and stare at that fire television. Like all night long. And this totally comes from my wife who grew up without electricity up in the hills and had that was what they had, hippie television. And you know, Christmas time for her was like a can of peanut butter. And so
wait, hold on. What?
So she grew up super poor, a hippie kid, born in a teepee, and then her mom dug out an earth lodge, and basically she lived in this earth lodge for
earth lodge, meaning it's an underground dwelling, you build the walls out of dirt.
So you dig into a hillside. So it's
like part house, part cave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this was her, and this is a lot of what shaped her life as well as like, and being around a lot of people that speak their mind, and she's a very strong personality and stuff.
Yeah, she's a very powerful mama.
But I think I grew up in a completely different situation in Florida. Like in the grind, I was the son of a single mom who worked 10 hours a day.
So hold on, what, peanut butter?
Oh yeah, back to the peanut butter. Thank you for.
I'm genuinely curious. Like
So-
that was a present.
So they used words like store bought. You know, like have you ever even heard that term, store bought?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't know what this was until being with her, but like, you know, everything that they got every year was like stuff they grew. So it was like if they didn't grow enough of something, they didn't have it. But occasionally on Christmas, that would be a treat, is to like open up and have peanut butter and get to like put the celery in the peanut butter, and you know, it's like
That's pretty dope.
pretty wild. And
Man.
I feel like when you have nothing, the simplest things can be so powerful. I was in Cambodia when I was like 20 years old, and this was maybe 10 years after Pol Pot and like the genocide that happened
Have you
in
heard the
Cambodia.
song by Dead Kennedys? Holiday in Cambodia. It's really good.
But
Sorry.
But I
Go
will
ahead.
say that the people that I met there, the locals, even though there was so much devastation in their families, like you talk to any of them and like they had family members that were killed in this horrible time, but they all had smiles and they just had nothing, but they had like everything.
Yeah.
They were happier than Americans. It's like, or people from the US where like we have everything and we're not happy. And I
Yeah.
think this is just a huge thing with, and I also want to talk to you about, you mentioned the flow state.
Yeah.
When I was younger, before the internet and I was editing, I felt like my flow states were longer.
Yeah.
And now that there's Facebook and there's all these like distractions, that I feel like my flow state gets smaller because there's always like one click away to go like just see what the world's doing.
Uh-huh.
You have that issue?
Well,
I mean, I could get in like 12-hour flow states like 10 years ago.
I've gotten in like week-long flow states.
Wow, that's impressive.
And it was the teachings of Abraham Hicks that really helped me get there, because I started understanding the mechanics of deliberately choosing thoughts. And when you're deliberate, I mean, if I picked up my phone right now and started scrolling through Facebook, there's only one real reason that I need to do that from my level. Not my level, like I'm high level, but from my perspective, the only reason I do that is because I was like, I'm bored and I don't feel good. And maybe there's something on here, somebody that said something nice to me and is going to make me feel better. And so it's already coming from a place of kind of low energy. If I'm in a super stoked, like I'm in a super stoked state already this morning, and then that documentary on top of it, like I feel really good. So if I'm going to go online, all I'm going to do is scroll through to see if there's anything that I need to attend to. If anyone's saying, hey, I can't find tickets for this particular show. Okay, here you go. Hey, Indubious, we love you guys. And you changed my life. Thank you so much. Love you too. You know, something simple, in and out, boom. But when we're like already feeling low, it's easy to go in there and feel like kind of drawn, seduced by it. The best indicator of when I'm having the best time in life is I didn't even look at my phone once all day. You just looked at it to check the time or make sure my wife's not calling, you know, because I have kids and you have to kind of be around your phone. But as far as getting into the extended flow states, it's choosing. So there's a level of magic to flow, right? Because if you're in the flow, you're just literally connecting to an energy and it's taking you with it and you kind of almost turn off your head. But also you can do things to get there. And for me, there's thoughts that I know that I can go to a particular thought that I've thought in the past that gives me an almost euphoric fantasy like dopamine release. For example, like using that documentary as a example, wow, my life has truly been a mystical journey guided by every step for the purpose of giving me tools with which to help other people. Like that is an amazing, not just like having that thought, it's one thing, but seeing it in action, it's like, dude, that is really cool. If I could see where I am now, 10, 20, 30 years ago, it'd blow my mind. And so just that thought right there, it's like, oh, that's kind of a lift. That's a pickup. And then you can, you kind of, when you hold the feeling and energy and vibration of one positive thought, it's easy to pick other ones out. Like how cool is it that we have the studio that we can do this? We have this technology, we have cameras. I know how to do all this sound design stuff through my Logic. I've got this like super talented filmmaker. See, I nailed it. Filmmaker friend here talking with me, helping me build a documentary. Like my life is literally could not be any cooler. There's literally nothing that I need more. I have everything that I need. You see, it's like easy to kind of snowball on it. And so then once I'm there, because I'm already there, then life is kind of fun. And it takes away the extreme seriousness of everything. And it's like life is just for fun. And so what will snap me out of the flow state? So one thing, I don't know if you've noticed this, you go to bed super excited, you wake up super excited. Do you get that? So there's no problem there. You stay, your momentum stays throughout the night. It's just not messing. It's really a game of just not messing it up. And so don't go to the places that you know are going to make you feel bad. And so you know the things are going to make you feel bad. You want to go online and argue with someone online about vaccines?
I mean, I don't argue with anybody online about anything.
Crash.
Right.
Definite crash. Bring something up to, your partner about something that's an ongoing sensitive topic. Actually, when you're in that flow, in that really high flow state, like the vortex as they call it, that's a great time to actually have those conversations. But that's kind of a tangential conversation also. But that's how I got into my long extended bouts of being in the flow state, which I also call the vortex, which is the term that Abraham Hicks used. Flow state, vortex, like just basically being in spiritual alignment and having the highest possible, like you're connected to everything. I'm trying to wrap this in for anyone who's fuzzy on the terminology. It's really about just not messing it up. Because if you don't mess it up, it just continues. This momentum continues. For me, the thing that's messed it up in the past is using drugs, alcohol, weed, or whatever stupid other thing that's around at the time. I don't do that anymore, but that was a common thing. I'd be like, "Oh my God, life is so good! I want to celebrate. Let's get hammered." And then the next day, I'm like, "Okay, well, now I feel like shit. Awesome." So I noticed that was a trigger. It's kind of like that was a self-defeating pattern that I have. And so noticing, oh, I do, this is literally something that I do. I need to stop doing this. Why would I do that?
I find the whole Facebook thing very, for instance, putting out a video and then waiting to see who's going to like it, if somebody's going to comment, and it brings my energy way down. And in the last year or so, in the last couple months, like I find that the world has gotten so divided, and it doesn't matter what side you're on or if you're not on one at all. Just seeing the division and like going on there and just seeing the negativity, it's not healthy. Not for me.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Because
I had an insight the other day. Is the reason this is happening and the division is getting more and more is because people are being forced to look at the fact that being addicted to the idea of duality and good and bad and wrong and right is no longer serving us as a people. We are moving beyond this is right and that's wrong. Now,
not all of us, but yeah.
No, well, but we are. we can't go there if all of us can't go there. And so, but you have a spectrum, right? So you have people at the top doing really good and like breaking through these dimensions and spearheading this thought. Like whatever this conversation we're having right now is pretty far up there in terms of the forward thinking vibration of unity. And then you have stuff way down at the bottom, but that whole spread it's still moving, which is literally the reason why people are acting out. People aren't going to figure it out until they've acted it out so many times until they're like, wow, this isn't working. I mean, how did we just shift from it? We just shifted. This is something that I realized too. It was all fuck Trump energy. I'm talking from my liberal bubble. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself as quite liberal anymore because liberal seems really weird now.
It does.
So from my perspective, it's like everyone was like, dude, Donald Trump is the devil. If you support him or you like anything about that, unfollow me.
Right. You're a racist and you're all
You're a
these things.
racist. And so this is not me saying vote Donald Trump 2021, whatever. It's it's not me endorsing him, but the bizarre thing is that energy is now shifted into, if you are unvaccinated, then you must die, or whatever the thing is. And it's on both ends. Why can't we accept that there's people that want the same things as us that have different ways of thinking that they're possible? And what is wrong with it? Why can't people do that? And so my point is that we're getting shown example and example and example. And then there was the whole Black Lives Matter thing. All lives matter. Black lives matter. Oh, Donald Trump. No. Biden. No. Bernie Sanders. No. Vaccines. It's like, it's listening over and over again. No one's going to win. You're not going to convince anyone to come to your side. But what you can do is make a decision to see something from someone else's side and offer them love and compassion regardless. That's like the next logical step. It's the next logical step for all of us, for humanity.
Definitely over the past year, things have changed so much. Like, I feel like people were talking about this big change that was happening, this lightning, this awakening and stuff. And it was like something to do with, Trump going out of office or whatever. But then it's like, has anything really changed, like, with our government? I don't think anything's, that different. Like, in the end, it's still the same powers that be that are still controlling everything.
I think it's a full puppet show, full-on puppet show, and we think that it matters.
And I feel like, but that's the thing, is I do feel like the veil has been lifted, and now we're seeing that it is, I mean, maybe not everybody, but I definitely have had major changes in the way I think over the last.
Yeah. And I enjoy having this conversation with you because you're like me in the sense that you're non-extremist. I think that extremism is the arch nemesis of truth. When we are deeply biased, we are blinded to what is real. And so I like to enter. I'm guilty. I mean, we're both guilty. No one's perfect here. I'm growing and learning all the time, and I've made mistakes like yesterday or today. You know what I mean? But I like to enter any type of situation where I end up feeling triggered, like, oh, this person's wrong. First thing I want to think is, okay, there's something in me. There's something in me that's happening right now to a completely baseline daily interaction that it's not, it's inherently neutral. And I'm applying this to it. Why am I applying this to it? And how can I come to a place where I'm genuinely wanting to understand as opposed to prove my point? And when I get there, that's like the place of being like just an innocent child. Like, no one's against me. No one's against me. Nothing's a threat. Nothing's a threat to my ego or my personhood because I don't identify my personhood through my beliefs. I mean, that's paradoxical in the sense that right now I'm identifying the fact that I don't identify. That's really the way that I identify. I identify as a person who doesn't want to be identified with my beliefs, which I think is, it's working out good for me. Sorry, that was a lot.
I mean, I feel like, speaking of the vaccine thing, I feel like the powers that be have found something, like they've been trying to find something to divide inside of enclaves of groups and stuff. And this is the thing that it's
the current thing,
cut the cake in half. And it's like, you're either on that side or on this side now. But like you said earlier, there's not just two sides. There's not good and evil. There's this gray area where we all really live. Yeah. And we all are judging everyone else, even though we do the same things that they do.
Exactly, bro.
And I think that's what I don't get. It's like I see people, gonna use an example, but and because this is happening on both sides, but there's people shaming people online for going in public, just being around other people, and then you see them out being around other people, like the next day they're like partying and at a rave or whatever. You're like, wait a minute, how are you throwing all this hate out on Facebook and giving everybody? And that's part of why I've recently left Facebook.
Well, and I feel that exact same thing in myself too, because I'll see someone online putting up a big stink, and I'll be kind of judging them, like, dude, you don't see the perspective of what we should be doing, right? Like, we don't need to be offended by other people's ideas online. But in my head, like, I'm offended by the fact that they're offended. You know what I mean? It's a paradox within itself. So anything other than, oh, that's interesting, you know, a playful curiosity, man. It's that is something that's been really resonating with me. The idea of approaching reality with playful curiosity, because it doesn't need more than that. It doesn't need all this assigned importance and threat and life and death drama. And if you're going through that, that's not taking away from your experience. Obviously, that's exactly what you need, because you're going to get to a place where you understand that you didn't need it at all. It's just hard to see people that I love going through that. People in my very immediate sphere, you know, the 10 closest people to me in my life aren't really, no one's really there. But, you know, it's also hard being targeted. We've gone through, we talked about it in that other podcast that you listened to, where we kind of have been targeted and got people upset with us for not taking a stronger side of the vaccine thing. And,
again, such a divisive issue. And I mean, you guys, you're a band. You play music for people. And so I think that's what you do. And that's, I mean, you're supposed to stop doing that. Like, I don't, you know, I don't think that. And the other thing is, I mean, there is a million issues that you can get behind right now. You can go down, you can help out the homeless people down on the homeless section. You can go down and you can stand by and set up flowers during the Barry Washington thing.
There's real stuff.
And I have tons of friends that they've all like worked they found their issue that they're like really hitting on and stuff. But it's tough. It's everybody wants you to be as passionate as them on their issue. And
I can't pretend to believe what you do. You know what I mean? I can't. So, and let's say this. Let's say I go, okay, this person really wants me to believe this one way. I'm going to believe this way to make this person happy. Then there's all the people on the other side that now are mad at me too. So there's two options. One, you try to placate. You can try to placate the largest group of people that you see. Maybe you think 75% people are pro-vaccine. Go, I'm pro-vaccine. Then you're still going to have 25% mad at you. Or you can stay in your power of what you believe and remain neutral and loving and compassionate and understanding of all walks of life, because there truly is no good or bad. There's just merely people on a playground of like a video game, virtual reality, complete fucking dream that we're in, that think it's so important, and we're all just having fun, and it's all okay, and you can believe whatever you want. It's not going to be the end of the world. You're merely practicing and living out a theme for you to get to a place where you're more compassionate and loving and understanding of yourself. And so that's the place. I mean, that sounds like a pretty cool place to be. That's where I want to be. I don't care if that makes still some people mad. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not for placating. I choose love every time. And that might not look to you as the way that you want it to look, but that's not for you to decide for me. And it's not for me to decide for you. And so,
is it weird when they like use your lyrics as
yeah, that's happened to me from day one when we did the Never Bow song, because I've been I love paradoxes. I'm kind of like an extreme non-extremist, right? I'm extremely into not being extreme. And so everyone's like, we have to stop this. They're taking our power away. Come on. What about Never Bow? What about Never Bow, dude? You wrote the song, Never Bow. And I'm like, well, I think that you don't understand what that song's means, because it means this. No, it doesn't. It means this. Okay, well, apparently you know better than me. That's fine that you have a belief of what that song means. But if I give you what that song means from me, it's probably a pretty good authority. Right. But then again,
everybody finds meaning, their own meaning.
Exactly. And I mean, I say it all the time that I don't take credit for the work that comes through as much as I am just a facilitator of it. So it's like it's mine, you know, like, oh, this is my song, these are my meanings, so that's the way. But for me, what Neva Bao stood for was the fact that nothing in the physical realm reality really has the ability to take our power away. It is an illusion, and it's only the assigned power that we give to it. So we think that some evil thing is going to come and, unleash some man-made virus and then try to implant, some barcode in our arm or make us alien cyborg zombies. But
You're talking about living without fear, right?
exactly. Let's just bring it on. I don't care. I'm still going to spread my message. I've been dealt with the alien. I've been an alien zombie since I was born, baby. They gave me alien mystic vibrosis.
Right.
And do I look back at it and go, God, yeah, the evil power, Satan tried to put his bad juju on me and disease my lungs, but I cast him out with the power of Jesus because that's wrong and I'm right. No, I go, thank you. Thank you, Satan. Thank you, Corona. Thank you, mystic vibrosis. Thank you all, because so this is what I'm getting towards is a vibration that cannot be spoken, because I'm speaking to you through this dimension of communication of words, through a human brain, which exists within the fourth dimension. Up, down, left, right, in and out, plus time, fourth dimension. We can't understand what the fifth dimension is like, because the fifth dimension is it's what we're entering into, 5D. And it's beyond good and bad. And that's what we are stewards of the energy through Indubious. And so when you're undoubtful and you're unfearful, how can you be undoubtful and unfearful if there's good and bad? It's acceptance that everything is for a reason. We have to have villains. We have to. We will always need villains. Thank you for coming to teach us. Contrast and drama and pain and suffering is the reason we come here, so we can grow. Thank you.
And we all have to deal with that. We all, lives are finite. We're all going to lose family members. Mm-hmm. 50% of us are going to lose our partners, those that have one, and you're going to have to deal with that. Like when I think of, I've been with my wife for 18 years, and I think of us growing old together, and I sometimes think in my head, like, one of us is going to die first, and what's the other one going to do? You know what I mean?
It's a dark thought, bro.
It's a dark thought, but
I try to have that conversation with Amber, and she doesn't like it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's cool to just talk about that kind of stuff as like we're all going to, as we get older, our friends are going to pass away, like more death is going to be around us. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it's like all the work we're doing now, hopefully is like, grounding us for then when shit gets real.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, obviously shit gets real for a lot of people.
Yeah. I do, you did a good job. I don't know if you even did it intentionally, but you went into the life and death thing and how that doesn't need to be such a big deal. And that is a further expression of this non-dualism, higher dimensional energy, where it's like, we're going to just normalize crazy extreme shit and laugh and have fun. Yeah, people die. People born, people die. People born, people die. I'm going to die. And I'll be fine. And I want you to be fine too. Just keep living your life. You will get to experience as many lives as you want to. You get to choose to come back to any type of simulation that's going to be perfect for you. And even within that, this is literally the exact simulation that you came to. This is the exact one that you chose, dialed in for yourself to become this. So, I try to have that conversation with Amber, with my wife, and I'm like, so, when I die, I don't want you to be like, yo, this is the end of the world. I want you to just be grateful. I'll be like up in the whatever dimension I'm in, like totally have your back and supporting you and guiding you, and I'll totally be there. She gets sad about it. She doesn't want to talk about it. I'm just like, leave me sad. I'm just saying, I want you to know, because it could happen anytime.
Yeah. For any of us.
It could happen anytime. And there's so much beauty in, because this is like full shadow integration, right? Shadow integration. It's like a super trendy thing. Integrate your shadows. You know?
Never heard of it.
You really? No. Shut up. You haven't?
I haven't. Tell me what it is.
Shadow integration? It's exactly what we're talking about, where it's like integrating dark parts of reality that we don't want to look at, choosing to finally look at them, not avoid them anymore, understanding where that exists within us and realizing that it's not bad. All it is a part of us that we chose to label as bad and keep out. Shadow work.
I mean, I've heard of shadow work.
There you go.
Okay.
Same thing. Shadow work. It was my kind of current moment thing. So, I mean, and that's what I think we're doing collectively, because everything that happens on the personal level is happening on a global level, really. And I think right now is global shadow work. Oh my God, look at all of the atrocious racial genocide things that our leaders that we have statues of have done. Holy shit. How come we never talked about this before? This is terrible.
And 50 years from now, they'll be talking about this time in the same way, right?
Look at all these people that didn't understand that they were all brothers and sisters of the one most high energy. You know, that's what I like to think 50 years is going to be like, but who knows? Maybe it's more shitty. Maybe people are more pissed off. I don't know. It's not able to predict the future, but I know for me, my acceptance of all of it is getting far more effortless. And even beyond acceptance, we talked about this in that episode of forgiveness, right? So beyond forgiveness is like acceptance, right? So even beyond that is not just accepting, but being grateful. You know?
I think that's one of the most important.
It's hardest.
Thank
you, Facebook.
Well, I just meant grateful for life, I guess. I think Skip even said it in his thing. He said that's the first thing he does in the morning is wakes up and thanks God for life, you know. Huge important part is just even if you don't wake up and think of that, if at some point during your day you do, you know.
I wish I did that. I don't. Pretty automatic in the morning.
Do you ever have moments where you are outside in nature and something about like the sky is so blue and like you can smell the air
I know
and
what you're gonna say.
You can hear the leaves and it's just like there's like an attunement to.
It's a higher. That is exactly what that is a higher vibrational sense of reality. So I talk about this with Javen, Gary, all the time on podcasts about developing supernatural ability, developing metaphysical ability. And the way that you develop metaphysical ability is through acknowledging ways in which you already have it. Me being able to talk and you hear the words and interpret them through your brain, like we think of it as this natural everyday thing. It's like already it's so deeply energetically magical that we can have this conversation, that we can look at each other and like see the contours of each other's faces. Like we're already experiencing so many intuitive things through communication and human interaction that we just weren't aware of. And as you become more and more that way, you realize how it all kind of is that way. And so for me, when I have the experience that you're talking about of being in nature and having that, it's like experiencing reality beyond your senses. It's heightened sense. You have the same thing where like your vision kind of like opens up and becomes like ultra crystal clear, and you see things in this like beyond movie quality way.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
Yeah. And it's like I feel connected. It usually happens when I'm alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes on road trips too, where I'm just like driving down some lonely highway and maybe the sun is just like setting and there's just this like almost like a chill that comes over me.
Yeah.
And it's just this like feeling, I guess, that like everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. I have that feeling right now. I literally have that same feeling. I started getting this thing a few years, maybe 10 years ago, where I'd be having a conversation with them and like a portal of with anybody, just a conversation like this, when I'm sitting and looking at someone like this, and then this like tunnel of energy kind of builds, and it's like it becomes ultra clear where I can see better than my vision. in this pocket of energy. Really weird.
That's wild.
It's almost so weird. I like snap out of it because I'm like gazing so weird into the other person. But Javen,
I'm sure nobody would take that the wrong way.
Javen told me that there was a name for it. It's like not telepathy, but microcospy or some weird thing. But anyways, teloscopy or something. Teloscopy, like it's almost like there's a way. He says he's had it in the sense where he can like see real close, like microorganisms and shit, and then he snaps out like, "Whoa!"
Oh wow,
yeah.
Well, isn't that like what the military or the CIA was trying to do, like where they could televiewing or whatever?
Yeah,
they could
that
see.
is,
That's when they could see distance, or they could.
It's called
see,
remote viewing.
Remote viewing. That's right.
And it's actually one of the easiest metaphysical ability. It's one of the it's one of the first ones you can kind of develop.
Because you're not bending spoons, you can just like go to a place in your head.
Yeah, all you're doing is you're kind of syncing. So, from my understanding, it's essentially you go into a lucid. You kind of like sedate yourself into like a lucid dream state. I don't know if you've ever had this happen in a dream where you kind of like are above yourself and you can kind of see yourself, but you get into that state and there's a fairly easy, I've never done it, I've never tried, but there's a fairly easy process. And then you can go and like walk around the house and look at stuff and it's like actually there. This is the report that people have, I haven't experienced that personally.
Do you remember when we were going to go call the aliens in?
Ooh. I forgot about that. We were going to do a whole podcast about it.
Were we? I was talking to Paul and his wife. Are they married?
No, they're not married.
Okay. But we brought up that movie, and their daughter's boyfriend had this crazy UFO story.
Did he do it? So what is the movie so we can tell people?
What was
Close
it called?
Encounters of the
Fifth Kind.
Fifth Kind.
Right, because the Fifth Kind is
the
when...
documentary.
It's a documentary. And there's been speculation on whether this guy is
of
like
course. I mean,
real
anything
or not,
like
or whatever.
this, anything
Totally.
like this is speculation.
But the whole concept of it is that there are peaceful aliens out there, and he's bringing groups out to the desert. They meditate, and they call these aliens in, and
There's also not peaceful aliens.
Obviously, right?
There's also not peaceful aliens. And so you called me, and you're like, dude, you texted me like, watch this, watch it now, and then call me when you're done.
Yeah.
And so I went and watched it, and like instantly I had the idea, we're gonna do this. We're going to do this and we're going to film it and then we're going to do like a documentary on it or something like that or a podcast or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then
you talked to Javen.
Called Javen and I said, hey, we're going to do this. Do you want to be involved? He said, no, absolutely not. I said, oh, okay, why absolutely not? He's like, well, I've done all sorts of stuff like this in my life and it will get you into trouble. There is government involvement, there's good aliens, there's bad aliens, there's telepathic manipulation, and there's all sorts of sides that there's no way to know because these beings are beyond us advanced dimensionally, and they all have different motives, and he essentially has had very bad experiences with it in the past.
It was enough to scare me off.
It was enough for me to be like, fair enough. I'm good. Do you still feel spooked? Or would you do it or no? I don't think I want to do it.
No, what he said made me not want to do it.
Yeah, and so and then another thing that he said to me is, so I would describe, so that thing that this is trip, dude. This is a trippy conversation.
And I don't know what with most things, I don't know what I believe because I don't know, but I'm so interested. And it seems like in the last year, there's been a lot of alien stuff.
Yeah. We literally saw some outside the other day, bro. I forgot to tell you about it. It was just kind of like, life is so weird that you see an alien now and you're just like, all right, whatever, forget about it.
And what's interesting is everybody has an experience. Almost everybody you meet, you bring up aliens.
It's
like, yeah, we saw
the frequency of the Earth is changing. But what you were saying about walking in nature and then having that kind of extra sensory perception of color and feeling and sound. So I was having these experiences. I'd be driving, and then I would like pop out, and I'd see my car below, and I'd see, which it seems dangerous, right? And I'd see the forest, and then I'd see the sky. And it was just this beautiful blue, and it was this crazy euphoric feeling, dude. It was unreal. Like it happens, I can tap into that energy anytime I want now. It's become so common. But I asked Javen about it, And I'm like, what is this? This is really weird. And it's like this super fluffy utopia feeling that life is a dream playground, which is it's kind of a seductive energy. It'd be easy for me to just hang out there all day. But what I've learned through, really Javen teaching me so much is that a lot of things like that are delusional stuff that can kind of send us on the wrong path. So my initial intuition was to ask him about it. And he said, so extraterrestrial beings, the way they get people to give them permission to interfere, or I guess interfere is a weird word, to somehow be involved in their life and energy, is by sending them these types of energies. And so that makes them go, oh, wow, this is amazing. I want more and more and more of this. And then they're like, oh, yeah, that's us. Here, you can have this. This is the energy that we are, and we want to help you, kind of thing. So sometimes it's deceptive. And he has said to me that there are extraterrestrial things that do want to get in touch with me. And it's up to me, of course, whether I want to do that. But, he's the one person in my life that when he says something's probably not a good idea, I'm like, respect.
Yeah.
Respect. I'm doing great. I don't, I think that there's so much emphasis on things outside of ourselves because we're undernourished as a society in spiritual and metaphysical understandings. Ancient civilizations knew all about this stuff, and they were shamans, and they knew all about spirits and aliens and guides and angels and plant medicines, but we don't really have it. So we're so hungry for it that it's like aliens are the coolest, most important thing ever. The truth is we are human in a human experience for a reason. By our own choosing, we are meant to be in this simulation. So at some point, an alien thing may become relevant, but that's really, for me, has been sinking into and accepting I want to say sentence, but it's myself. It's self-sentence. I'm not sentenced by anyone else. Accepting my reality as the reality I came to experience, and embracing myself as a father and a musician and whatever life coach, and the things that life throw at me responsibility-wise, that's been the greatest medicine that there is. I went to a festival called Lucidity Festival in Santa Barbara, California, and they had a monk, some high-ranking Buddhist monk guy there that was at a campfire, like, hey, everyone, we're doing a talk with this guy. And I went, and I, for some reason, my question was about extraterrestrials. Like, are they in traditional Tibetan teachings? Is that real? He's like, yes, it's real, but as the Dalai Lama would say, don't worry about it. I was like, respect. So that's kind of always stuck with me. Sorry, Gotcha. That was long.
No, that was good though. One thing that whole thing made me do was look up at the sky at night more.
Yeah.
Which was cool and not so cool because I realized how much junk is up there now. When I was a kid and we used to like look at the stars all the time. I don't remember seeing much but stars, maybe a shooting star occasionally.
You mean all like the little satellites that go by?
Yeah, or they'll turn and they'll just like flash light, or you've got Elon Musk's Starlink and they're just like come across in a line, one after the other, like for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, all it takes is looking up at the sky for 5 minutes at night now and you'll just see some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And whether or not that's space junk or whatever.
I don't know.
And so that could be a lot of what people are seeing. I mean, I guess I found the whole idea really intriguing, and it seems like if there were aliens that were like, it just seems like we would have been wiped away a long time ago if, or somebody would have, or like you're saying, aliens are already taking part in everything already.
Yeah. I don't really know.
I don't know either.
I don't really know.
I like talking about this stuff, though.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on. It's not an immediate issue for anyone right now. There's no type of threat. They're not here. You're not going to deal with it. We still have to pay our bills. We still have to figure out what food to eat that doesn't give you a rash on your butt. You know what I mean? We still have to like figure out how to I've got to figure out how to fix my shoulder because I got an impinged shoulder. You know, you still have life.
Totally. And the one thing that I always feel is like the reason that if there are aliens and why they haven't shown themselves to us is because they look at us like, wow, look at them. They're just like killing each other over the color of their skin still. They're so not evolved. And that makes me sad sometimes because I wonder where hopefully humanity's going in a direction that's like not where we're going to be there one day.
Well, man, you got to ask yourself, is that an indubious perspective?
Right. You know, it
sounds a bit dubious.
It does sound dubious, doesn't it? But I was a Star Trek fan growing up as a kid, and I love the idea of all these planets working together and like peace, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, now when I look at billionaires launching themselves into space, I think, gosh, there's like this, we live on this amazing blue-green ball that has so much going for it, and we're talking about colonizing a desert planet for when we destroy this one. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's like the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard. And so I've watched myself as a person transition from dreaming about space and wanting to go to space one day as a kid to now being like, it's been, I guess we're not looking for what we want to look for. I mean, they're shooting Captain Kirk into space today. He's 90. He's
That's
portly
crazy.
and he's scared. I heard he's pretty scared. I'd be
scared, dude. So many people die getting shot into space.
So many
people die. It's like, I think half the people that have done it probably died. That's a total bro science number I picked out of the air.
I can't back that up. I was on a playground in Florida when the Challenger explosion happened. And I remember sitting out on the blacktop and like watching this like smoke trail shoot into two. 111. 111 is powerful as 1111. It just has to be.
It actually is more powerful. Let me tell you why, Tim.
Please do.
It's a great question.
You always have the answers. And you know what, can I just say before I just cut you off?
You're not going to get the answer now. You cut me off. Sorry.
Well, hopefully you'll remember it.
Okay.
I was really nervous coming on the podcast because I was thinking like you and your brother are the most, like you guys always know what to say. You're always so well spoken. And I'm just going to try and like make whole sentences come out.
Well, I think you're not only meeting that expectation, but you're exceeding it. Very lucid questions and answers. 111. So we have a song called "Do the Best You Can." It goes 111. We look out for that because we had this tour where we could see 111 over and over and over again. And then after that, I got my license plate for the van is 111 KNE. Random. And so we just always have, it's kind of just an ongoing synchronicity with the band for whatever reason. 111. What was another one that happened? This is crazy. So right after we released the bridge, someone's like, did you guys, I just noticed that the bridge is 1 hour and 11 minutes long, man. That was really smart of you guys to do that. I'm like, yo, we did not plan that. That is totally random.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
You know, because there's no real way to know how long there is a way, obviously, but I wasn't aware of it.
I like that. In your last podcast, you guys talked about the meaning of a song coming later after it's been written. For instance, I think it was Skip's "The Calling," and it's got this like African style.
Yeah,
and it's like
so weird.
And then now he's going to Africa.
And that's his calling.
Trip. That's wild.
It's a trip.
I find that in my life all the time where I look back and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Didn't know what that meant. I mean, I got a tattoo of an ohm on my shoulder when I was 19. And I pulled it off of a Ringo Starr album. I don't know what album that was, but it was like, kind of looked like the Magical Mystery Tour album, but it had a big ohm right in the center of it. And I was like, that's the symbol I want.
You didn't know what it meant?
Didn't even know what it meant. And then, years later, you know, I went to Nepal, India, and
everyone's like, "Oh,
yeah!" Everybody sees it everywhere. It's on every truck, van, everything. Yeah. And
it's a primordial sound that vibrated physical reality into existence.
And more meanings than that. There's like I've heard several meanings, but you know, it's funny when I got into like kung fu and wushu. like the idea of being like a kung fu monk on a mountaintop, like in a monastery, totally appeals to me. And I think that's where I get the moving rocks around thing from. It's like, I look at those monks that are like making the big sand mandalas, and it probably takes forever to do. And it's just like,
and
really,
they wipe it.
and they wipe it and it's gone. It's like start over again. And I did actually speak with a medium a couple of months ago, and she was like, I'm seeing a monk in a cave. And I was like, and evidently a past life.
Makes sense, man.
But the really interesting thing about that particular experience was the first thing she said to me was, do you have a little dog? And I was like, I do have a little dog. And feels like you don't love him.
Aw.
And I was like, and I realized right then, because so we have this dog he's a rescue and he's half Chihuahua, and he yaps all the time, right? He's got this
Sweet.
really annoying yap.
I know him.
And you know him, okay, right?
I think he's a sweet dog, though.
Miguel. Okay.
Miguel.
And I do too. And but I was throwing him shade for like a couple of years because I was just like,
He was kind of
he's
annoyed with
so
his yap.
annoying. Yeah, and then he would he's just one of those dogs that just like presses himself against you all the time. But after I heard that, I was like, how human of me to think that like my world is just about me and other humans.
Yeah.
Not about this other being that's literally sharing the same space that I'm sharing all the time.
Yeah.
And it just made me really like changed my perspective on a lot
Well,
of things.
as a monk in a cave, you'll understand. As a monk that lives in a cave, you'll understand. You
All
probably
living
already
thing.
know that how the cycle of like reincarnation goes. Is that animals do eventually become self-aware and start getting incarnated as humans.
I don't think I knew that it happened in that way, or
Well,
can
I
it go
don't
back
know.
the other
Yeah,
direction too? I mean,
I think it probably can. I mean, you can evolve and de-evolve too. You can become a human and make some really bad decisions, and like, all right, you got to go back to doggy town, bro. You're tripping. But that is at least how. I don't really adhere to any specific belief as like this is the way, but the recent book that I read that really kind of lays out the mechanics of reincarnation and the way that we ascend dimensionally is a book called The Law of One, Teachings of Ra. Very good book. It's some channeled book.
what do you mean when you say channeled book?
Meaning it's some lady that that was kind of that trained a lot in meditation, and then she started receiving transmissions and speaking an alien. It was like the collective of consciousness from like Venus that millions of years ago they've already ascended to like sixth dimension or whatever, started coming through her and talking. And it's obviously really, really believable. It's amazing, incredible. And so they talk about first dimension as elements, fire, water, air, earth, or whatever. And then second dimension as like, microorganisms and plants and stuff. And then third dimension as animals. So it's like, and then what happens, like, for example, like pets, they start to become self-aware. They start to go like, oh, I'm a thing and he's a thing. And like, he loves me and I love him. You know what I mean? That kind of whole thing. So it's literally like, I mean, all humans know like how real that connection is with an animal and how sweet and innocent that is beautiful. And then, that's kind of like the progression in the third dimension. And then you go into fourth dimension, which is humanity of, forget what the qualifier is. So now you're as a human, now you're self-aware, and I guess it's the analytical part of your mind or something. I'd have to look it up. But then, so as we go into fifth dimension, is like beyond. We're essentially acquiring a completely new awareness and skill previously unseen. And I do believe that is the topic that we've essentially been talking about, which is the beyond good and bad, beyond, I think that it's even potentially beyond time, in the sense that might be a higher dimension. I sound really uneducated on this right now. I'm going to stop guessing.
We finally found a subject that he's not educated in.
I just read the book. I should know better. But, we will get to a point dimensionally when we are beyond time, where essentially everything has happened. And so you're looking at time as a band in front of you, and you can essentially, I don't even know how I don't even know there's a way to describe it in our 4-dimensional avatars that will make sense to the current state of our brain. But what does make sense to me is moving beyond. This makes sense to me based on my life experience, is moving beyond this dimension of I'm good, they're bad, that's wrong, that's right, you got to change this, into like, oh no, this is actually all perfect. This is all what it is. There's no good or bad. There is simply existing because we are all the same thing. We're not a separate person. We're separate facets of the same exact thing, having different dreams from different perspectives. You are me, and everybody is.
I mean, when you pull back, right, and you see the planet, it's like, it looks like it's just one living...
Yeah, a little freaking pebble. A gobstopper.
Which it could be a gobstopper to some
if you
space
think
giant.
about it, gobstopper kind of has the different layers, like the Earth's core and the crust.
Yeah.
We're probably a gobstopper, I'm saying.
Yeah, I can see that. And they haven't, I think they were just trying to dig through the mantle not too long ago. I read an article about this and I was like, oh. But they got to a certain point where
all the machinery broke. It got too
exactly,
hot.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
We found hell.
But I mean, they only, they got just like that far in where they hit the like solid.
There's like the deepest hole in Earth somewhere, right? It's like some deep mine.
That's the one.
It's in China or something.
I think there was 2 of them. They were doing it at the same time. Not that they were going to connect or anything.
I thought we were supposed to dig to China. That's why I'm confused. Remember, you dig a hole in the ground, you get to China eventually. Yeah,
but nobody in China is digging here.
You said before the podcast there's questions you wanted to ask me. You had some questions you wanted to ask me.
I guess, yeah, my first question would be, can you tell how many people are listening to the podcast and when they like tune out? Like, do they all of a sudden, like 45 minutes in, it seems to be is when everybody...
I don't have those metrics, but I do know how much each episode ends up getting listened to. I think our most listened to episode is the one with Mike Love.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the second most?
I could look it up.
I really enjoyed the ones, the brothers ones. I actually really like the one that Skip did with Paul.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
That one was really good.
Yeah.
The only reason that I didn't do that podcast with him is because we didn't have enough mics.
So
check it out. These are all the podcasts. And this is how much they're downloaded, okay? So when you get to the top here, see Mike Love, number 1. Zion I is number 2.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Which one? Wow, you're right. That episode is 1 hour and 11 minutes.
Wow, I got to watch that one.
That's a trip.
I really found him to be quite super cool, easy to work with, and
it doesn't make sense, that story, man.
Story that's and nothing. I just looked it up the other day just to see if there was any more news on his passing, and there's not.
It's weird. But here to wrap this up, the number 1 listened to is the first podcast, right? So it's Living Indubiously Origins. I think that's just for people that are like fans of Indubious. I'm going to go listen to their podcast and listen to one podcast and they're like, whatever, I lost interest, right? That's number 1. And then number 2 is Skip's Iboga Journey.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And then the first ones are kind of just have the most listens because I think they're the oldest. And then you get down, I guess Mike Love one isn't the number 1. So we have a few other ones. Grant Chambers, Skip's Iboga Journey, all these are more.
So the Sinai one was before we shot the Neverbow video?
Yes. So for everyone listening that doesn't know the story of Sinai, well, we call him Sinai, but his name's Zoombie.
Right.
From the group Sinai. And he passed away. And the story was that he passed away of COVID. But I don't know how much we can really talk about the truth about it because of I don't even know what is the truth because, it's shocking to me. I guess the word is that he didn't die of COVID and that's what all the news articles release and that he
immediately released.
Yeah, that he was in some healthcare facility and there was like some kind of foul play where like, what did the news article say? I don't want to say anything more than the news article because I don't want anyone to get mad at me.
Right. And I know that I read the first article and then I was, the San Francisco Chronicle wrote me.
I know.
And asked me like,
hey, it looks like you were friends with Zoombie. I'm really sorry for your loss. Would you be interested in giving us some information? Because it sounds like something weird happened because he died under the care of these people and there was a struggle.
Yeah. And so I was like, whoa. Because at first I was like, oh man, another, you know.
I don't understand why more news about it isn't coming out. It bothers me a little bit that people are continuing to just sit with the reality that he, like 99% of people think, oh, he died of COVID.
Right.
But I guess the story is that he had COVID and then he recovered and then some other type of situation happened. We're not at liberty to be able to speak more on it than that.
Right. But interesting that they're still calling it a COVID death.
Yeah. And it's weird too that people aren't, there's not at least one person online going, hey, this is bullshit.
Yeah. What I have my neighbor, her brother did a mural at his memorial.
Okay.
And it was really interesting. She said that she went and read all these comments and just said people were so mean and said that they were saying horrible things and calling him a super spreader and all these things. And he deserved what he got. And it's like, nobody deserves like, and this is part of the divide we were talking about. That's just like, how is it that like, you know, the peace and love people can all of a sudden become the like hate and, you know, anyway, but
it's the extremism, man.
It's the extremism.
Extremism. It's
so
toxic.
While I was working on the documentary and I was doing those little lyric sections on Never Bow of You and Skip,
yeah.
I just went in ahead and did it with him too. And I just put that out on YouTube actually yesterday because I was like, somebody should see this and hear his words.
You sent that to me too, and we should post it. I want to post that.
Yeah, and afterwards, so what was really interesting is, I don't know if you watched the second half. So after he does his verse, I put in an outtake. And this outtake was when, it's really interesting. So we were filming him and we wanted him to be like a news anchor that's on scene. And we were in Phoenix, Oregon right after the fires.
Yeah.
And I just asked him, we weren't going to use any of the audio for the video. I just wanted like a shot of him looking like a news anchor and like kind of holding his ear and saying what's going on. And I was asking if he would just freestyle some stuff and just, you know, like whatever came into his head.
Yeah.
And, you know, he said that this was a cleansing, and this isn't pretty, and nobody likes this. But he's like going back. He's like, but they're saying this has to happen. This has to happen for change to come. And then he stops again. He says there's more coming. This isn't all. This is just the beginning.
Wow. Basically,
unfortunately, there's some wind noise on it because I didn't have my professional sound set up.
We should post it with some subtitles.
Yeah. So like it gives me the chills when I think about
it. That's wild, bro.
And just his like, he had such a kind heart and smile, and he was so nice.
He was as ultra good and humble as any interaction with any artist I've ever had, you know.
Definitely. And it's interesting. So I've worked on a lot of music videos where it was a big artist that would be in a video, and usually it's different every time, but most of the time it's like they're on a schedule. I get them for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And this has happened with, I mean, I can name them off. There's like Kabaka Pyramid and Queen Omega and Itana and Promo and, you know, basically like a lot of big artists and stuff. Yeah. But I really found that like a lot of them, there's a wall up. He didn't have a wall at all. I found common ground with him on Tai Chi because he does Tai Chi.
He's a Qigong dude.
Totally.
Yeah.
So like we kind of hit it off like right away. We only spoke for literally a minute while we were filming. But you just know when you like have a connection with somebody and like somebody is just like has a really great vibe.
Yeah.
And I'm like an empath in a lot of ways. So I, you know, feel people's energy, and he just had really bright, powerful energy. So when you hear that there was a struggle, wonder like,
you're like, what?
Yeah.
How?
Exactly.
No way. The dude was a straight up pacifist. But we have no choice but to let his loved ones and such release that information because it's not, you know, figured out for people. But I'm excited for when the truth comes out because the truth deserves to be heard. I don't know what the truth is. I have no idea. Maybe he did die of COVID. I really don't know.
I don't know either.
Neither do you. So speculation is just speculation, but
Because I heard several stories that contradicted each other.
yeah, very, very odd. We had the same management at the time through Reggae 360. And so I was like, yo, Mark, my manager, I was like, does Zoombie want to do a song with us? He's like, oh, probably, yeah. Send me over the song. I'll send it to him. And then he called me back. He said, dude, Zoombie is pumped on this. Like, he's really excited. And honestly, I was kind of surprised. I don't know. I just feel like someone of his, I just had so many experiences where the bigger an artist gets, the less likely they are to entertain doing something with someone for any other reason than it's going to benefit them. And his reaction was, this song is dope and this is medicine and this is what needs to be heard right now. And then I watched a podcast of him on the Hiking My Feelings podcast of him talking about it. He's like, yo, these guys are like, my management sent me the song. These guys want to do a song with me. And these guys are like, I forget what he said. It was like, aggressively positive. I was like, hell yeah. And so like, he was basically talking about how that song sent to him and it uplifted his spirits. And he said the same thing on the podcast that, he's like, man, after the podcast, he's like, man, you guys are really positive. I'm like, yeah, respect. Thank you. I mean, it's just kind of how we are. But, you know, I think it's easy for people. And I know that he was deep into the conspiracy side of what was going on of the, you know, quote unquote plandemic. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I take pride in my perspective because it feels very good to me to have my perspective. I know that a lot of people carry around a lot of weight of the illusion of a binary universe, good, bad. Right. We don't have to carry that weight. You can still continue to be good and not be bad, quote unquote, good or bad. You can still, but it makes it better. You're better at it. You're essentially energetically hacking the game of life by not buying in to the good and bad because you're casting your vote. You're casting your vote that everything's for a reason and the universe responds and then things become even more for a reason.
Yeah. And Confucius it's the middle way, right?
It's the middle way.
And that's what Tai Chi is. That's what yin and yang, the balance. It's balance.
That's what Indubious is. That's what the documentary is. This is a perfect hop off point here.
Perfect.
Super grateful to have you, bro.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really had a good time here. This was fun.
The documentary is going to change some people's lives, bro. I'm really excited. I'm a little nervous like you.
Right. Because for you haven't put it out yet. So it's like, for me, the hardest person to watch it is you and Skip. Like
I was sold in the first 5 minutes, dude. In the first 30 seconds, I was like, tear welling up. Holy shit! I don't know if I can watch this.
I can see that you had to put the food down.
I was like, bro, hold on. You didn't prepare me for this. Get out of here.
I thought you knew. I told you I've been crying for weeks.
Well, I didn't know, I guess. But thanks for coming on. We should do this again because it's been super fun.
Yeah, definitely.
This is the Living Indubiously podcast. And this is Tim Cash. Hey, Tim, if somebody wants to do a music video, how do they hit you up? If they want you to come out, film a music video, make them look super beautiful. We're actually, here's the secret, is that we're actually Indubious, me and my brother, we're not even attractive. That's all camera tricks.
That's true.
That's you.
Mostly me. But it's the energy. Like,
yeah, it's just even the energy.
Your old
sexy.
age, you got
whoa.
I'm just kidding.
How do people contact you if they want to bring you up for a project?
Yeah, so my website is ffefilms.com and my
FFE, like Frank Evan.
Or Far From Earth.
Far From Earth Films.
Yeah, Far From Earth Films. And my name is Tim Cash, and my email address is timcash@farfromearthfilms.com. It's a long one, but that's
easy. timcash@farfromearthfilms. We'll put that in the link so people can hit you up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Evan. I really appreciate you having me here.
Got to have an optimal theory for playing the game.
Whatever you focus upon becomes your truth.